The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Good evening and welcome to The Spotlight. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Rose. And tonight we're going to pay tribute to a hero.
Right.
If we ran the world, if we ran the FAA, something would happen. Some black pilot would say somebody said nigger or something like that, and they would just get rid of all the air traffic control. Like That's basically what having no traffic stops is like. The roads become infinitely more dangerous.
And all these shootings on the road, bro. Come on.
Right.
Don't forget you catch people with warrants and all sorts of crazy shit.
And carjackings. Like, bro, if you stop one of these niggas in a carjacking and it's not an armed officer, bro, they're getting blamed. These niggas don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck.
Their suggestions are just, and the fact that they actually have the president. Good thing they don't have the Congress like that.
Yeah.
But they have the president. They have the mayors of all the major cities.
Exactly.
It's very, 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 very terrifying.
And prosecutors and DAs.
And the prosecutors and DAs in all the major cities. That people who think like that are not like vying for power. They're trying to keep it, and they're doing it. And most people want to keep power. They do anything to keep power. So it's like, it's terrifying, man.
The society at large becomes more and more antagonistic between individuals, between groups of individuals, and the society at large. The media puts himself in the opposition to the society in general, at large. Separate, alienated. Okay? On that stage, you remember I was talking a couple of hours ago about the sleepers. That's when the students from, say, United States, if they're trained in Lumumba University, or developing nations, that's the students I was dealing with, are being sent back from the Soviet Union here. Or if they were already in the United States, in the country, which is an object of subversion, they spring to action. The sleepers go up. They slept for 15 to 20 years. Now they become leaders of groups, preachers, public figures. Prominently, they actively include themselves in a political process.
At the hearing, he was granted a $25,000 surety bond and will be required to wear an ankle monitor with no contact to those involved. He also can't visit the mall. An attorney for Price.
He's been granted a bond. He's out.
Oh my God. Oh,
in racist South Carolina, right? South Carolina is supposed to be super racist, super red. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, was that judge? Who was that judge? Is that
that judge is a sister.
Judge Fannie Lou Hamer.
Lawfully carrying a weapon. At the hearing, he was granted a $25,000 surety bond and will be required to wear an ankle monitor with no contact to those involved. He also can't visit the mall. An attorney for Price.
Well, like you said, that solves it. He can't go.
No problem solved. Let's go home.
Well, you're banned from the mall.
No, and think about all the people who've been banned from the mall for like stupid shit, like hanging out, loitering, or stealing, or maybe getting in a fight. They got the same exact punishment as this guy.
Dude,
I'm telling you, go to the Gap this weekend,
bro. My sister, she did some shit when she was younger, like 15, 16. She went in a mall and like stole this polo fucking hoodie or some shit. And I was like, I was on some like, yo, if we can leave, like we need to leave right now. If you just grab that shit. She took that shit and just walking around the mall with the shit. And then they stopped her on her way out and shit, and they ended up banning her from the mall. Bruh, we went to the mall like the next weekend.
Right.
It was not a problem.
Let me tell you something. Banning somebody from the mall is like banning somebody from the fucking zoo. Like, that shit is so big. Like, no one's ever. Now, if you go to one of these carryouts and they ban you, like, say you use some counterfeit money at the carryout, and they got the wall with the plexiglass, and they got your picture up there, and everybody in there is family members and shit that works there, then yeah, they can be like, oh, you the guy right here on this thing, you banned. That's different. The fucking mall?
Right.
Like, I used to do mall security. In a salute to I want to answer this question right quick. Which city will be the first to abolish the police? I mean, if I had to, I wouldn't. If I had to choose, if I had to guess which city would ban the police first,
Portland, I think.
yeah. I think yeah, Portland, maybe Seattle,
Or Seattle,
San Francisco, one of those cities on the
Or
West Coast. No city on the East Coast
Minnesota.
is going to abolish it. Minnesota, maybe too, but I think that it's going to be very hard now. But anyway,
Black male arrested for napalm in St. Louis. Saw that one as well. He's going to be a black identity extremist for sure. Okay, here we go. Someone. How is it illogical? Because they were tearing down statues in Philadelphia. They took down a statue of Frank Rizzo. In Birmingham, they took down a statue of a Confederate soldier. I have no idea what that has to do with George Floyd, or how that replaces white supremacy with justice, how that improves the lives of black people in Philadelphia or Birmingham, Alabama, where these statues were removed. Free Mumia.
Dude, and honestly, it's pretty scary because like even the people who know what's going on are still woke. The people who know what's going on are still woke. Like I had hopped on a stream with Anton Daniels and Nathan Daly. He's like an ex-cop or whatever in Atlanta. And
I know that woke cop. He's a woke cop. That's crazy,
bro. The shit that he was suggesting was very woke. Like police shouldn't respond to traffic stops and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, do you know these social workers will get blamed out here if they respond to these niggas? Hey,
and do they understand that? They understand that traffic stops make the road safer for other. This is how black people would run the world. They would have no air traffic controllers.
But folks wrote, how is it illogical to focus one's rebellious unrest? Love that one. They got all kinds of cute labels for all this. On a symbol of white supremacy. And does the same suggested illogic apply to white people causing the destruction? Also had, they should be burning every statue of a white supremacist leader. Are you seriously mad this is happening? I just paid attention to the emotion right there because Gus T didn't say he was mad about anything. Gus T just asking for logic. Just following the logic. And asking also for people, if you're over 15 years old, you've seen a riot before. You've seen rebellious unrest before. You've seen a protest before. You've seen these marches before. You've seen all this before. I don't think anybody who is over 15 years old, who's being honest with himself, who is following logic, is looking at any of this and saying, oh, things are going to drastically improve for black people after this. Wow, this is something I've never seen before. I don't think, if you are over 15 years old and you have, reasonable grasp of your mental faculties, reasonable understanding of white supremacy, racism, you should have correct understanding of what takes place when all this unfolds, especially in an election year, because this same type of thing happened the first time around when our current president walked all over Hillary Clinton, crooked Hillary, celebrating in November. It was exactly the same thing.
Yeah, Iceland is one of the safest country on the planet.
It's
and
fucking
guess what?
cold.
No, they have over 100,000 people there. Guess what? Guess what their sun population is?
-52.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Oh shit.
Country on the planet. And it just and listen, man, to all you guys who are new, if you're new, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the PayPal, Super Chat, Cash App. If you're new and you triggered and you got a problem with anything that's being said up here, you got an attitude, please hit the link, man. The link is in the description box, man. Tell us how, because I want to understand how something other than what we're saying is happening.
Good memories. You don't even have to have a good memory. Just, halfway okay. Just 2016. We're not talking ancient history. Anyway, 2014 was also not ancient history. Without further ado, get comfortable, relax. Hopefully it will help folks get a better understanding of what is happening right now. Context of White Supremacy, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's 24th visit to the cows.
Seemingly daily, reports of black people, melanin-dominant humans, being killed and slaughtered.
Now he makes it a political issue. He demands recognition, respect, human rights, and he rallies a large group of people. And there are violent clashes between him and police, his group and ordinary people, no matter what. It's black against white, yellows against green, doesn't matter where the division line goes. As long as this group come into antagonistic clash, sometimes militantly, sometimes with firearms, that is destabilization process. The sleepers, many of whom are simply KGB agents, become leaders of the process of destabilization. Doesn't mean that Comrade Andropov sends Comrade Ivanov to the United States. The person who takes care is already here. He's a respected citizen of the United States. Sometimes he gets money from various foundations for his legitimate struggle for, I don't know, human rights, women's rights, kid lib, prison lib, whatever. There are sympathetic Americans who donate their money to him.
White cops kill black men. He writes, Mama and Daddy were lucky they had girls. I had boys. My boys are 11 and 9 now, and I'm scared to death for them. It's not that I'm afraid they're going to get jumped into a gang or wind up doing or dealing drugs. No, sir. My big fear is they're going to run into one of you people one night and they won't be coming home. It's like open season on young black men in our community, like they're walking around with targets on their backs. I have a recurring nightmare. Chief, I get this call in the middle of the night. Come on down to the morgue, Mrs. Johnson. We got one of your boys here. Police shot him when he tried to run. He says this is a quote from an African-American mother at a community forum. He goes on, it's open season on us in the Heights. Chief, if you're working the blacks, you're wearing a target, plain and simple. For me, it comes down to this, kill or be killed. I got a wife and 2 boys. My sons need their father, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it home at the end of shift. This is from a white cop and a member of an officer safety task force 2 weeks after the previous black mother gave her comments. He goes on, this is all Mr. Stamper's writing now. Anxious about the futures of 4 young boys, a black mom and a white dad used identical metaphors in April 1985 to describe the killing ground that was, in their respective minds, the black community. There is no better case study of this issue than the Amadou Diallo incident in New York City. Mr. Diallo was approached by 4 NYPD officers one night in February 1999. The cops thought he might be a rape suspect. Frightened, not understanding what was going on, Diallo reached for his wallet to show the officers his ID. One of the cops yelled, "Gun," and in less time than it takes to read this sentence, 41 shots were fired, 19 of them striking Mr. Diallo. Diallo was not a rapist. In fact, he had no criminal record. NYPD ruled it a clean shooting, meaning the killing of the 22-year-old non-English speaking unarmed immigrant was legally justified within department policy. The Department of Justice found no civil rights violations. A state criminal trial ended in 4 acquittals. But an innocent man was shot dead. Why? Because Mr. Diallo was black. I believe the cops were afraid of him for that reason and that reason alone. So frightened they couldn't see straight, think straight, or shoot straight. If they'd been at their PD firearm range in the Bronx, all 41 of those shots fired as they were at point-blank range would have found their target. But why were they so frightened? President Clinton said at this time, if it had been a young white man in a young all-white neighborhood, it probably wouldn't have happened. To determine whether the Diallo killing or any other police action was racially motivated, you have to ask, would the cops have behaved the same way if the man had been white? No. Diallo was killed because of his dark skin. A white man reaching for his wallet under identical circumstances, including language barrier, would have been given the benefit of the doubt. Simply put, white cops are afraid of black men. We don't talk about it. We pretend it doesn't exist. We claim colorblindness. We say white officers treat black men the same way they treat white men, but that's a lie. In fact, the bigger, the darker the black man, the greater the fear. The African American community knows this. Hell, most whites know it. Yet even though it's a central, if not the defining ingredient in the makeup of police racism, white cops won't admit it to themselves or to others. I will stop there. This is Mr. Norm Stamper, white male, former chief of police in Seattle. You called CNN to ask that he be a guest on their program to discuss what's happening in Ferguson. Is that true?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said you called CNN to ask that they have Mr. Stamper on to discuss what's happening in Ferguson. Is that true?
Right, I did, but that was just on a comment line, so I didn't get any answer. But when I was in Houston giving a talk yesterday, I'm advocating that every single black person, I don't know Mr. Stamper, never met him, but his book is so important, revealing what indeed is in the minds of white police officers. I'm not saying 100%, but a sufficient number for black people to have the experience that they have, or for black mothers and fathers to have to worry about the safety and welfare of their male children because of this terrorism of feeling the necessity to kill and destroy black men. And so again, I'm going to do the PR for his book. Every single black person should have that book as testimony to what it is that we are experiencing. I hope that this is not going to get Mr. Stamper in any difficulty with the greater white community because of these truths that he revealed a number of years ago. But again, I can't stress enough. It goes into great detail about the kind of language that is shared between many white police officers, the negative, demeaning, destructive language that they use when they're on the telephone talking to each other about black men in particular. So I don't know, is he fearful? Is he worried in your conversations with him?
This will be his third time on the program, and I never got a sense that he felt that he was in danger or that something might happen to him for having these sort of discussions. I'll be sure to ask him that on Thursday, but I've never got a sense that, he feels he might be putting himself in jeopardy by sharing this sort of information.
See, there really needs to be an absolute demand on the part of black people all across this nation, demanding that Mr. Stamper be heard. I don't know how that could be accomplished, but I think that everybody fails to have answers. And I've talked about it, and Mr. Stamper doesn't take his analysis or his observations to where I take it, that this fear that white people in general, white males in particular, white police officers, even in more particularity, this fear that they talk about. Now, they're the ones with all of the weapons. The black male that they encounter has no weapons. So what is this fear about? And I say that the fear is at the subconscious level, and the most fundamental fear that people who classify themselves as white have, and that's the fear of their genetic annihilation.
That's why you'll never see me on a panel with any of those guys. Because, listen, man, I'm a whole nigga. I think that's a bridge too far for a lot of people, man. A lot of people like,